Welcome to Technology for Humans, tech through the eyes of its leaders. And today I'm joined by Ben Curtis, who is the co-founder of Honeybadger. And rather than me get it wrong, Ben, do you want to explain to us exactly what Honeybadger is and what you do?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me join you for this chat. Yeah. Honeybadger is an application monitoring service. So if you're a web developer and you have a web app in production that you need to support, well, we are your best friend. You plug us into your application and then we can monitor your app for any errors that might happen or any downtime and let you know right away when something's wrong.
Fantastic. What differentiates you? Because obviously there's other tools that are in that niche or in that field. What differentiates you? What makes you special?
That's true. Yeah, there are a bunch of us doing very similar things, and I think we have different takes on things. I think one of the main things about Honeybadger is that we focused on making the UI very explicit around the use case of something bad has happened and you want to find out exactly what that was as quickly as possible. You want to go fix that thing and then get back on with your life, right? You don't want to be spending your time looking at charts and flipping buttons and all that kind of stuff. We don't want you in our app. We want you writing code. And so that's we've designed our app around that particular use case. And for some people that's a great fit, and for other people they prefer the buttons or the charts or whatever, and they can go use something else.
I mean, truthfully, we should be designing these sorts of tools so they're as unobnoxious as possible. I think that's the right word. They're like they exist, but you don't know they exist until you need them, or you don't interact with them until you have to. That's probably a better way to phrase it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I think that was that's sort of the philosophy that Heroku had back in the day. To remove or to do away with the things that you don't need on a day-to-day basis, or make those things as easy to operate as possible. And that's AWS is famously the opposite of that.
Right. Yeah, I think Heroku removing the friction, the things you just don't have to care about to get your app into production, and I think that was genius.
Absolutely. You mostly deal with or contract to Rails applications, but you do you do look after a wide range of languages. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the three of us who started Honeybadger are all Ruby and Rails developers. So we started in that community, and that's who we knew best and served first. But yeah, since then we have branched out and we support the PHP community, like a lot of Laravel customers, and Python and Django customers, and then of course a little more recently Elixir and Phoenix. We got a few customers there. So if there's a web framework, we're supporting it.
Fantastic. Yeah, interesting when I look at Laravel. I came from a PHP background years ago, and I think Laravel is something that was needed in PHP world a long time ago. Like, it's definitely a saving grace. I mean, PHP was going to continue no matter what because of WordPress, but like getting new developers interested in learning and developing with PHP, it's been quite a turnaround, I think, for them.
Yeah, I was also a PHP developer back before I fell in love with Ruby. And that's back in the Smarty templates days, so PHP 2 and PHP 3.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think, Laravel taking a lot of the things that we got in Rails. I remember when I first saw Rails and got into it, and I thought, well, this takes a lot of the things that we learned in PHP, like the templating and the database abstraction, a lot of that plumbing stuff, and just baked it into the framework. So I thought this is genius. So I think PHP now going back and looking and taking what they can, inspiration from Rails and other frameworks, and getting that to PHP developers and say this is the golden path for writing web applications, I think is great. Yeah, love it.
A lot of older Rails developers or Ruby developers came from a PHP background. I've found that, and I think today it might be a source of new Ruby and Rails developers, because I've discussed with a number of people on this podcast and just out and about that we have to think about or think more about the future of where do we find new developers for Rails. because we have a community of incredible senior developers, but they're an aging population. I don't mean to put it badly, but that's true. And we are getting less at the front end, so to speak. We have to find those people from somewhere. Like there are definitely new people coming into Rails every day. I don't mean there isn't, but not at the volume that I think we need, considering the number of applications that are out there and the need to continue into the future.
Yeah, I started using Rails in 2005, and I've been, attending Rails conferences since the first one and up to this last one a few months ago. And I noticed, this last Rails conf that the average age is definitely older than it was 20 years ago. Probably aged right along with me,
Yeah. And Rails is a framework that is being kept up to date constantly.
Yeah.
We saw at Rails World just last week, and I'm dating the podcast, I don't mean to do that, but we saw, a bunch of new features, and it's something that's actively been worked on. So it's modern, it's available for today's web. And we have to make sure we have a developer team coterie that keeps up with that.
Yeah. I think a lot of what we can do there is continue to show how awesome Ruby is and how Rails leverages Ruby for that. That's what hooked me. Like I like to say that I came for the Rails and stayed for the Ruby, because I really fell in love with what Ruby could do. And that's when I discovered the quote unquote magic, that Rails was doing, was really because of what the flexibility that Ruby allows, reopening classes and all that kind of fun stuff. And so I think, if we keep on sharing the awesomeness that is Ruby and how that makes a framework like Rails awesome as well, then that will attract those new developers who are looking for that sort of thing. And like me, they'll just fall in love with Ruby and come join us.
Yeah. Another thing that I notice about the developers in our community, in the Rails community, is there is a strong interest in development. Like for a lot of people, it's not just a job. It's their passion. It's what they're interested in and still excited about. And I find that talking to obviously the developers in my own team, but just, you go to conferences or you just speak to people, in sales calls and things like that. People are still excited about what they do. Do you find that as well?
Totally. Yeah, there's a lot of enthusiasm. I mean, if you go to one of your local Ruby meetups, I think you'll find some hardcore enthusiasts for the Ruby language, and I'm in the Seattle area, so we have Seattle RB, which I unfortunately don't get to very often. That's my fault. But it's a fantastic bunch of people who are like really interested in, just doing cool stuff with code, right? And I think that's a common thing you'll find in the Ruby community.
Yeah. Just playing around with something that you haven't done before and is interesting and exciting. And yeah. I don't want to ever lose that that spirit of discovery. I think it's, as humans, I guess it's one of our greatest assets, and that desire to always know more and be interested in things. And, I just find that intriguing. And, assumedly you would have had to have done that to start the business that you're in. Like there would have been so much to discover and understand.
Well, one of my big things just in life in general is just learning new stuff. I love learning things. I spend hours a day reading and just kind of sucking in as much information as I can. That's what I love to do. And playing with code and learning stuff is just tickles that portion of my brain that loves learning, loves trying new things. And I hear that's a way that you can stay young, keep your brain active and learning new things. Cool. Sounds good to me, but I just love doing it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. Take us back to the days when you started Honeybadger. You're a Rails developer, I assume, working for somebody else or maybe as a consultant. What inspired you to go, oh, this is a tool that we need to start building?
Yeah, I think like a number of people at the time, we were a Rails shop building a Rails web app and using the typical Rails tools that people were using. Among them was one that was previously known as HopToad, created by the Thoughtbot crew. It had become known as Airbrake after some name issues. It seems like that's a thing we have in the Ruby communities. We name things and we have to rename things. But anyway, Yeah, so there were these exception monitoring tools that were about. We felt like there was an opening in the marketplace for a different take on it. We had some frustrations with Airbrake as it was then. It had been sold off and just wasn't quite the experience that we thought would be awesome for developers to have. And so we thought, hey, we can do this. We can do the same kind of product, but better. I guess every programmer has a certain amount of hubris, right? Like I can do that, right? And better. But really,
was it with the viewpoint of this is going to be a business, or you just wanted to go, let's just build it and see what happens?
No. Yeah, we had been thinking for months and months about like what kind of business could we build. We had ideas that were kicking around, and this was the one. Like, okay, this is it. We're going to do this. And it was really about creating a great customer experience for developers, because we were developers and we felt like we didn't have a great customer experience with the product that we were using, and so we wanted to give that to other developers. And so part of it was the product and building that. We figured, yeah, we can do that. And then the other part really was like, can we provide an awesome experience? And that comes back to, I think, the UI bit that I mentioned at the outset, is like we were so focused on, okay, this is the actual use case that we want, so let's build it around that use case and build a business around that. And so far so good. We've been at it for 13 years, and it's been a fun journey.
Was there a lot to discover? Was there a lot to figure out, or was it all reasonably understandable?
It was both very simple and very complicated at the same time. I mean, it's a very straightforward kind of problem. You've got an API payload, right, that comes in, and you have to do some smarts to group it, and then you have to send some alerts, right? It's very simple. Like I think most apps start with that simple kind of core, but the actual implementation,
should do.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But the actual implementation, that was a bit more complicated. As we learned, I think a number of times I've looked back and thought, if I had known how involved and complicated this particular business would have been, I might not have actually jumped into it so eagerly. Because the devil's in the details, and when you have to deal with scaling issues, and basically you're getting DDoSed 24/7, right?
Right.
Because you're taking all these payloads in all the time. And when everyone's app is having a bad day, that translates to us, right? Having that deal with that same bit, right?
Yeah.
So simple and straightforward, but also complicated and learning how to do the scaling. But like I said, I love learning, and system administration is something I've been doing even longer than been doing Ruby. So it was fun for me to build that. And there were panic times, of course, like, oh, the whole business is going to go into flames because this particular problem. And then you get past it, and the business doesn't die, and everyone's happy. But it's been fun. A lot of ups and downs, a lot of learnings, but it's been a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you were saying just then, when there's a bad day, everyone's having a bad day. I had a flashback to the recent Heroku outage that impacted a lot of people. And, I've got on Heroku. Fortunately for us, like a lot of those clients were in Australia, and most of that outage happened during the US daytime. So it was early morning for us. Missed a lot of it, but it was not a pleasant day. These things happen. I don't know what to say. They happen.
And we see those kind of things. It's like, oh, there's something bad happening out there. And you check the Twitter and like, oh, that's what's happening.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's everybody. Okay, let's deal with it the best we can. And like it's the world we live in. These things do happen, and we deal with it the best we can, and everybody moves on. And, the interesting thing is you move weeks or a few months later, and it's in the past.
Yeah.
It's almost forgotten. Like nobody gets stuck on it and goes, well, that was the end of the world. It wasn't. It feels like it at the time.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like I don't know if you have kids, but I have a couple kids, and it's kind of like having kids. When you have a newborn, it's just like that is a world-changing, life-changing experience, right? And then there's like the sleepless nights and the crying, and it's just your life is just a mess, right, for those first few months. And then you get 6 months or a year down the road, you're like, oh, maybe we should have another kid. You like totally forget like all the all that stuff, right?
Yeah, look, my girls are older now; they're teenagers, so I think I'm happy.
You've well forgotten those nights.
Start thinking about grandkids. No, I hope they don't hear this. That's right. There's very little chance of them listening to this podcast. I've probably woken them up; they're asleep upstairs.
Oh dear.
You are based in Seattle, is that correct?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Is your whole team there?
So I'm in Seattle. My son, who also works for us, is in Seattle. and the rest of the team is in the Portland area. So not too far.
Yeah. Okay, fine. That is nice part of the world, right?
Oh yeah, love it here. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Is that where you grew up? Is that where you've always lived?
No, I grew up mostly in the southeast of the United States, so along the Gulf Coast, and moved up here for work when I graduated college.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I know they're both America, but very different areas, very different places.
Yep. Yeah, it's I think some people who are from outside the US are very surprised just how different the various regions of the country are, because it's a very large country compared to
It's a very large
some.
country, very diverse. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like moving to a different country, I guess. Basically, the people are different. The nature, the stuff around is very
The
different.
climate.
The climate, right?
Yeah.
I love it. Love them both.
Mm.
My parents are still on the Gulf Coast.
Oh, okay.
Still get down there
Yeah.
periodically, but yeah, I
Yeah.
love where I am. Seattle's a beautiful
Yeah.
place.
Yeah, great. I spend a lot of time in San Francisco, obviously.
Mhm.
And I love that city. I love it. I mean, I know it's got its issues, but I also see those improving. But I just love the culture of what happens there. It's such a unique place. It's such a, in the world. It's yeah. I'm not even sure exactly how to describe it. It's an interesting thing.
Yeah, well, especially with the tech world, there's an energy there that just isn't anywhere else. It is unique. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Now let's talk about conferences. You obviously, you mentioned that you've been to every Rails conference there is.
I might have missed a few, but yeah, quite a number of them.
Okay. What draws you to going to conferences? I mean, I love them too, but what draws you?
I just love hanging out with my tribe. It's really about making connections with people and getting to know new people. And I've made great friends at conferences. And even if you only see a person, once a year, that's still a great time to reconnect, and you can have some good friendships that way. At first, I really loved just learning new things and being exposed to new ideas, which I think is great. But these days, it really is about reconnecting with the people that now I've known for 20, 25 years, and just seeing where they are and making those connections with people. I love it.
You lean heavily into sponsoring as well.
Mm-hmm.
What's your philosophy there?
So, and partly it's a way to give back to the community. I think along with doing open source stuff, it's a way to just contribute and be a part of the community. But also, and to help put on those events, because they're not cheap to do, right? And I think if you've been close to conference organizers, it's a very stressful thing, and it's not like a super profitable thing. It's tough.
I don't know how they do it. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
I'm speaking over the next week to a couple of folks from Ruby Central, and it's one of the questions I'm going to ask because I don't know how they do it.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. And then, of course, the other part is advertising, right? It's a way for us to be in front of people who could be interested in our product. Love having conversations. I'm like most developers, I'm really an introvert at heart. But at the same time, I love having sales chats. I'm happy to do demos and stuff. And so a conference is a great opportunity, right? If you're sponsoring, to be able to have those kind of conversations pretty easily, because you got the booth there. But even when we don't do an actual booth, we love having like an event. Like the earlier years, we did events like we had a barbecue bus, where everyone hopped on a bus and went and got barbecue. That was in St. Louis at RailsConf. And we've done other things like that. And it's fun to have fun, right? You just hang out with great people and do those kind of things. So for us, it's something fun to do, but it's also a way to just meet people and to have a good time.
I keep saying this, and it is absolutely true. Like, the community of people in Ruby are second to none. And it's not just a thing we say that Ruby people are nice. Like, we say it, but it's actually true. When you're at one of those conferences, you find it out because you can walk up to anybody in that room and start a conversation. The ironic thing is you don't even have to do that, because they'll probably walk up to you. Just a random person will just walk up to you and go, "Hey, who are you?" Or, haven't seen you in a year, or, whatever. Like, which is unique. I do other conferences, as I'm sure you do. And you can't do that necessarily. Not everywhere.
Yeah, I think I'm fortunate in that the first professional conferences I went to were for Rails and for Ruby. And so that was a great, easing introduction into the conference world. And yeah, it's amazing just how friendly and open people are. And again, people you maybe not see for 10 years, you can see them again and they're just as happy to see you. And yeah, there are other conferences where it's a little more standoffish, a little more sometimes corporate, and people aren't really there to meet people. They're there just to learn a thing or to sell a thing,
Right.
But yeah,
Yeah.
there is a lot of good community.
But that's the exact thing. And it's not necessarily wrong, but, you go to some conferences or a happy hour or something like that, and people aren't there to talk. They're there to, who can I connect with that's going to be business for me?
Right.
Like, what can I get out of this person that I'm talking to right now? Instead of, let's just talk about what we both love.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can totally feel that too when you're in the moment. You're like, oh, okay, you're pumping me for a lead. But
right. Yeah. Exactly. Like there's this fakeness to it sometimes. And I am probably guilty of this as well. Like, I've been to those things and I've done exactly that because that's the mood of it. So
yep.
It's to be honest, I don't think I've ever generated business out of anything like that ever. It's not the place to do it. Everybody's there for the same reason. You do go to other conferences. I like you obviously invest into other languages and other frameworks and so on.
Yeah, we for Honeybadger, we like to be at ElixirConf and at Laracon. I don't think we've made it to DjangoCon yet, but that's probably on the list. But also professionally and personally, love to go to non-developer conferences like MicroConf. That's a big one that I love. Again, hanging out with my tribe of entrepreneurs, and Business of Software, which is another, as it says on the tin, about the business of software. It's about entrepreneurs and people who are dealing with software and building apps and building businesses that way. So I love those businesses conferences as well. Again, that's my people. I love, obviously I've been doing the entrepreneur thing for a while, and so it's a good crowd. Sometimes you do get those mix of people who are just there to see what leads they can generate. But a lot of times there are good conversations with people who are just, in the same boat you are and trying to figure it out just like you are.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I went to Dreamforce last year. Have you ever done Dreamforce?
No, never done that one.
That's a whole different experience. It's 40,000 people.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. And I had a good time because I talked to lots of people that I wanted to talk to, but end of the week, you go home with a suitcase full of swag. You just go, I don't know that I needed all of that.
Right. How many water bottles do I really need?
Right. You can probably see in the bookshelf behind me some of the Heroku swag that I've got. Mm-hmm. Nothing wrong with a bit of branding.
Not at all.
Let's talk AI because we inevitably have to. Are you building AI features into Honeybadger? Is there a need for that? If so, what?
So we recently launched an MCP server for Honeybadger, which our customers really like. It's pretty cool. You're in your editor and you want to grab some information about an error. You just ask the AI and it grabs it for you. It's slick. And then you can ask for help about help me resolve this error. Josh built that, and it's a lot of fun. And I think the next thing we'd like to do is have something on the server side that can maybe take that step for you, where you don't have to ask and maybe just make some suggestions. One of the stumbling blocks is we don't really want to just pump a bunch of our customers' data into some random AI, right? That's a big no-no.
How do you architect to get around that?
Well, we haven't done it yet, so I don't have a great answer. But I think we're 100% hosted in AWS, and so my hunch is that we can use Bedrock, AWS's AI offering, and use the tools they provide there to help keep that data contained just per tenant and keep everything nice and localized, and so that we don't have to worry about it going to whatever kind of provider out there. But yeah, that's one reason why we don't have it yet. Is because we gotta figure that out, because we definitely don't want to do it in a way that compromises people's confidence in our integrity in handling their data.
Yeah. A business like yours, I just realized because of what you deal with, you have to be prepared to handle things around the world. Like there must be legislative requirements, say in EU or HIPAA or SOC 2. Not that's legislative, but like there's different standards and requirements that you have to meet all over the place.
Certainly. Yeah. Yeah. And we hit all three of those typically every week. Someone's asking us about one or the other,
Right.
and
Yeah.
that's definitely a process, especially for a small team like ours. I mean, we are literally four
Mm.
people. It's tough
Mm.
to keep up with all that. But we have tools like Vanta and Drata these days to help with SOC 2 and HIPAA and GDPR, just tracking that you're doing all the things that you're supposed to be doing. And once you get into the groove, once you set it up, it's pretty easy to keep going. You have, we follow this process, we have this procedure. But yeah, it can be a big lift for a small team to try and accommodate all those things. But yeah, that's the world we live in. We
Right.
several months ago we launched an EU stack so that our customers who are in the EU who want to keep their data in the EU can have that. Obviously, we're an American company. There are still political issues around that, so that's not
Sure.
going to solve everyone's problem. But for some segment of the population who care about having their data there, now we have that there, right? And that's just, I think, the world we live in these days.
Yeah, I realize, especially things like SOC 2, there's like this enormous front end work to get it set up, but then once it's there, it's much easier. You get it audited each year, I assume, and
Yep.
it's just a matter of keeping it up to date from there.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. I'm glad I don't have to necessarily be concerned with that. I mean, obviously we contribute to people's stacks in different ways, but I don't have to be concerned with the whole thing of it. So yeah, it's quite a thing. So when we talk about those AI tools and workflows, what are the advantages for you? Like, why do those things? Why put the effort into it?
I think it's powerful. If you haven't played with AI at all as a developer, you definitely should play with it. Like many of the hype cycles we have in the industry, it's kind of heated right now, and I think there are a lot of promises that won't get delivered. But there's also some fire there behind that. There are some good things that come out of it. We've done some experiments here, using AI to help build our application, and there are definitely use cases where you can accelerate your software development. Do something in a day which would have taken you 2 or 3 or 4 days, because a lot of the grunt work, there's a lot of typing in development, right? And a lot of that typing, the AI can do for you pretty well. And if you keep a pretty tight rein on it, it comes out pretty well. We've had less success in trying to tackle bigger, more ambiguous tasks because it's not a person, right? It doesn't have a brain. It's not thinking. It's just guessing a bunch of stuff, and some of it works, right?
Yeah.
But some more recently, I think I've seen more of the spec-driven kind of development approaches coming out, and that we found good success with that. Like breaking down the tasks into manageable chunks, where now the AI doesn't have to try to think. Now it can just follow this task and then this task and then this task, right? And that works better. So it's a real accelerant when it works.
Yeah.
And
right.
It's a real time waster when it doesn't, but the only way to find out, I think, is really to play with it and get a feel for how it works or how it doesn't work for you and for your situation.
Here's a question I'm going to ask you, which is probably just going to be your opinion. Do you feel like for developers we've hit a plateau, or is there a lot more advance to happen in coming years?
Well, here's what I'm wondering when it comes to AI and development. Like today, I do a lot of Ruby, right? Because I'm a Rails developer. And so when I'm in Cursor, my preferred tool choice, I'm talking about Ruby projects. I'm like, okay, here's my thing, and I want you to do this. And it's pretty good at writing Ruby. It's somewhat better at writing Go, which I also do, because it goes a bit more structured, right? Ruby's pretty loose. But anyway, so I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I'm typing English and I'm getting out Ruby, and then I'm reviewing the Ruby. My tests tell me whether or not this is good Ruby, and then I push it out to production. Well, do we need the Ruby step? Could we just treat AI as a compiler? It's like, we write some C, and now we have a C compiler to take it into bytecode. We have Ruby, and then it loads it into its runtime and runs it. Do we need that programming language? I have personally never touched assembly.
Right.
but I have written C code, and I know there are developers out there who have never written C code, right? So will we get to a day where there's a developer who hasn't written in one of the programming languages that we're familiar with today because we've taken the compiler up a level? That's what I'm pretty curious about, and I think we could get there. I think we could.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty interesting.
My take on what you just said is that, in particular for today, if I was a new developer getting into the world of development today, I would want to have a code output that I can read like language, like plain English, which it is something like Rails, because I can read that and understand exactly what's happening. I understand how what the file structure is. I understand how everything fits together, the various components and so on. And I think that's necessary if you're to debug it. I remember when I was, back in the day, learning JavaScript. And the way that I learnt it was not to do tutorials or courses. It was to find bits of code that were already written, read them, understand them, and then rewrite it for my own purpose. And by doing that, I was learning JavaScript and, inevitably jQuery. And that's how that progressed for me. And I think if I was, I would approach it the same way today, but using something like Cursor or Claude or whatever, I would approach it the same way. And I think if you didn't know how to read that code, you wouldn't know what was wrong. You would just continually ask the machine, fix this, fix this, fix this. You wouldn't understand it ever. So I'm not concerned for the future of development. I'm not at all, actually. But I do think it's important that developers know how to read the code so that they can debug it. It's about their interaction with it. And using the tool on the side to pair with them or to assist them.
Yeah. And there is something about the mechanics of producing some code. Just like, if you're taking notes in a class, I'm a firm believer that if you write out your notes by hand, you're going to learn it better than if you type them, because there's some sort of connection between the writing and the seeing, and your brain actually retain that information. And I think the same is true that when you are typing, right? I read like when I first learned programming, I was like 8 years old, and I was using a TRS-80, and I had my little cassette deck, and I had a magazine, a computer magazine, and it had programs in it, and they're in BASIC, right? And you would type in the code, and you could make it run or not, right? And you would fix it and like learn what the difference is between an O and a 0, I think there's something to that mechanic, right? You like you said, you take that code that you see, you read it, you understand it, but then you change it, right? You type in the thing, you run it.
What happens if I do this? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
You're creating pathways in your brain based on this experience that you're having with the code. So yeah, I'm totally with you. Like that, I think if we lose that would be a sad thing, because I think there's definitely learning that going on there that we don't always think about.
And I have spoken to many, many developers like yourself and like myself, actually. And you'd be surprised how often TRS-80 comes up.
It was our gateway drug, I guess.
I think so. Yes. I didn't realize so many of these things were sold.
Yeah, they were all over.
They probably weren't. Yeah, There's probably just a handful. It's just we're all in the same place now.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. But you're absolutely right. Copying a multiple line program out of a magazine was how we learned.
Yeah. So I think if the AI gets to a point where we don't have to worry about the code anymore, then that will be some loss to us. But I think it's a possibility. I think we could get to a point where these languages go away, because you're not building new projects in Fortran these days.
Right.
That's just not a thing. Right?
No. I bet
20
there's
years,
somebody though.
Well, yeah, there's probably somebody, some poor undergrad intern at a college somewhere is cursing me right now because he's writing Fortran.
A system somewhere running on Fortran. Like I don't know what, but it'll be somewhere. Some legacy system that no one knows how to rewrite, and
some 12-year-old kid right now is learning the game of life through Fortran, and he's having a great time.
Yeah, I'm sure you remember this. Another lived experience that we all went through was the Y2K bug, and this concern at the time that that computers were going to crash. And I remember asking the questions at the time, but this machine is new. Why would it have this problem? Well, because it's written on this infrastructure that is much, much older, where people weren't thinking about this. And it did exist. And, I mean, obviously we were all fine and nobody died, but it was that learning of, actually, there's this infrastructure that is decades old that we're still using.
Yeah.
It's still there. Yeah. Anyway, okay. So I find it interesting, people's different approaches to how they're using AI tools. And there's a few things that come up consistently. Security is one, and how we approach that. The other one is things that are actually, I want to say business ready, but tools that are built in that are actually going to help people, not there just for the sake of it. And I assume you have the same consideration when you're looking at what to build.
Yeah, I use Microsoft products such as Excel and Word. And just recently, Excel had this thing where they put in Copilot into the actual table cells. And I don't want that. That doesn't help me. Like, I want to do a pivot table, or, whatever it is I want to do. Just get out of my way and don't bother me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm very sensitive to that. It's just add AI and we're going to make things better. And oh, by the way, you're going to pay more for it too. That's not my bag. I think it takes some prudence, I guess is the right word, just to think through, like, is this actually helpful and useful, or are we just gonna hop on the hype bandwagon and hope we'll cash in along the way, right? So I hope, like with most hype cycles, that within a short amount of time, 6 months, year, 2 years, I don't know, this kind of settles down and we find a happy place where AI is actually, very beneficial and some very identified use cases, and we can stop trying to cram it in every place that
yeah, right. Yeah. I've got a great example of that. Do you use Slack in your business?
Yeah.
I mean, most of us do, and I'm not dumping on Slack. I love Slack. I love using it. But they've introduced a lot of AI features into their product. And one that was released just recently was a little tool that said something like, summarize this message, message.
Right.
Which is the most useless thing, because most messages are like 2 lines, right? Like, they don't need to be summarized. But anyway, so let's try this out. Click on it, and I asked it intentionally to summarize a very short message. It was just a few lines, and then the summary of this message was like this. It's like, how did you get all of that out of this tiny message? The correct response would have been, I don't need to summarize this.
Just read the message.
Just read the message. I thought it was hilarious. It was great. but this is what's happening. I LinkedIn a while back introduced a tool to respond to messages with a canned AI response, and then they've just quietly backed out of that because it was just so useless and bad. We didn't all need to say congrats every time somebody. Like, it was a tool that obviously was never being used because it was just too obvious and impersonal.
Yeah.
That doesn't add to anything.
Yeah, I think it's so easy to get into the Clippy trap. Have this little guy pop up in the corner and just annoy you, get in your way. And with Honeybadger in particular, our customers are developers, right? And developers can be kind of prickly about their workflow and about being interrupted and so that sort of thing. So we try very hard not to put in things that are going to be a distraction, because again, we want to focus on your task at hand and get on with your life. So I'm a little prickly in that way too. When I start getting suggestions for recap this message in Slack, it's like, I just read the message. It was 5 words long. Thank you very much.
Yeah, but then using the tools for the right thing. I wanted to, like you, I try to take in as much information as possible, and I'm constantly reading and trying to learn and understand new things. And I wanted to take up a subject that I hadn't really ever looked at before, and use AI to learn it rather than pick up a book or watch YouTube tutorials. nothing wrong with those methods, of course, but I wanted to try this. So I picked up electronics because it's something I've been interested in. And here's a thing that I think I can think with. So I'm using AI tools to guide me, but to learn as I go so that I can understand things about electronics and build some circuit boards and work things out and understand it. And it's working so far. It's working great. Like it's, I'm understanding what I'm doing, but asking the right questions. I'm not saying just give me, it's not just tell me what to do. It's help me understand what I'm doing here. Which I think is what's needed.
My favorite use case of AI. An example is a few months ago, I had a Go app, a little toy app I was working on, and I wanted an in-memory cache. And so I asked ChatGPT, I'm like, hey, give me some options for in-memory cache for Golang, and that have these features. I want TTL and, et cetera, right? 3 or 4 things. And it gave me a list of 4 projects that I could check out. And it gave me the pros and cons of each based on the criteria that I said. And it gave me a great starting point for going and doing some research. Like I started reading about these 4 things and I picked one, based on the research that I did. But it gave me the starting point. Like I didn't know anything about in-memory caching libraries for Go before I asked. And, I would have eventually gotten there, right? With Google, I would have eventually stumbled upon the same things,
right,
but it would have taken me,
right. Yeah.
Yeah. But it would have taken like hours instead of 5 minutes, right? And I love that. I love AI as a starting point for it. It has compressed so much of the web into a useful chat interface, right? In many cases, that you can just use that as a great starting point and then go off and
yeah. As long as we don't use it as a copy paste tool.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't ask the AI to give you a circuit board with the final pinouts, and now you go take that to a printer, right? You asked to learn about it, so you could do that yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, but asking and finding out some incredibly interesting things like how does a resistor work? How does a capacitor work? Really understanding these things so that I'm not just putting a component on a board.
Right.
Yeah. Plus, I use the camera to understand what the bands are in the resistor because I can't quite see them well enough.
It's good to get those straight too.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, look, when we're talking about these things, obviously, we're talking about the future. What do you see are the challenges? Like, do you do sales in your business? You're directly responsible, or do you all do it together?
Yeah, so I'm primarily responsible. We don't do a whole lot of sales at Honeybadger, but yeah, for the bit that we do is...
Okay, so a lot of things just happen automatically online?
Yeah,
like people just sign up and...
Yeah, we do the product-led growth thing where it's a bunch of inbound traffic, and we, our advertising is pretty much around brand awareness and getting people, content marketing, get people to show up.
Right.
But yeah, when there's a demo to do, I'm the one that does it.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Do you see challenges in the current world? And I'm not I don't ever talk politics or even necessarily economics, although that's probably inevitable. Are there challenges right now for you, or do you see a whole future? Like, what do you see?
I mean, there are always challenges, right? They're always changing. So
yeah,
I think
businesses, right?
Otherwise, none of us would be making any money because there'd be no problem to solve.
And you know what? If it was easy, everyone would do it.
Exactly. Where I'm sitting and the business that I'm in, I'm pretty interested in the problems around the data sovereignty and what people are concerned about, with data locality, and not just country by country, but also in-house versus some cloud, right? I think that's been a thing that's come up more in the past year or two than was ever the case in the past 15 years of SaaS, right? I think previously it was just like, oh, cloud, fine. Except for, of course, regulated industries and people who would never go to the cloud anyway. But for, your common business person, it just wasn't even a consideration. It's like, oh, I don't have to worry about it. But I think that's becoming more and more of a consideration, and it's coming lower and lower in the scale, the size of business, right? Smaller and smaller businesses are caring about those kind of things, like where is my data, and do I really need to let go? And things like AI, I think, have brought some of this to the fore because they're realizing, oh wait, all this data is now in the AI. What's my data doing in there, you know? And I've heard some weird stories about things popping up in queries that shouldn't have, you know?
Uh-huh.
So yeah, that's I think some things we need to think about, especially in my world where it's SaaS. I think SaaS operators like me need to be thinking about that and be aware of that. And again, on the regulation side, I see smaller and smaller SaaS businesses having to deal with, you know, GDPR and having to deal with SOC 2, where, you know, 10 years ago they wouldn't have. They were blissfully unaware that these were problems, right? So I think these are challenges that we have in front of us.
I'm glad people are thinking about these things. It's frustrating when they don't. It's
Yeah.
necessary. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's definitely better than burying your head in the sand. And it gives conscientious people the leg up, right? People who have been caring and who are willing to care can now say, "Oh yes, I do that. I've checked that box. I'm happy to help you, you know, alleviate that concern."
It's something that I find interesting. I'm dealing with so many different companies constantly, and often a new business will come to me. They have a legacy Rails application, and it hasn't been, like, no one's maintained it for some time. No one in the business is particularly technology minded. Yet this application is core to their business. It is the business, and they don't treat it as such, which worries me. Or the other thing that happens is you have a great CTO or a good technical team, and for one reason or another, they leave and they're replaced by people that aren't that. And, they're people that will be concerned with the bottom line of the business or getting new customers in and, other things around the business, which is fine, but they don't consider the technology to be that important. And it is, because, one of the questions I like to ask people is, if that piece of tech was not there, what would happen to your business? And if the answer is it would run just fine, then okay, fine, you can remove that safely. But if your business depends on it, then you'd better have someone who knows what they're doing.
Yeah, I think you always have this struggle between, you know, the engineering team that wants to have everything pure and perfect and gold plated and no problems in it, you know, versus the business team that just wants to bottom line as low as possible, you know, to make sure that we're running, but don't spend more time than you have to, you know.
Yeah, right.
The eternal
Yes,
struggle.
the struggle between the CTO and the CFO.
Right, exactly.
Then before we wrap up today, because we've spent a bit of time talking already, I find it interesting when I start these conversations. I just talk, and then after a while, I look at the clock and go, "How did that happen? Where did that time
Right.
go?"
Yeah, it's awesome.
Before we do finish, is there anything you wanted to discuss with me that I didn't ask you about, or that you think is relevant?
I no, not necessarily, but I just, you know, you say that and I think, you know, isn't it amazing that we get to do what we do, that we get to fiddle with bits, right? And type away on the keyboards all day, and we get paid to do it. I mean, it's amazing. It's a wonderful life. I just, you know, sometimes I have to sit back and just really appreciate just how amazing life is. That we can have fun, that we can learn, you know, spend our time in the world of bits and bytes and in our brains, and produce things that are brand new that the world has never seen before out of nothing.
Yeah.
And just it's amazing. I love
And
it.
meet
So
these genuinely wonderful people as well.
yeah.
That we do.
So I just want to say thank you for giving me a chance to enjoy that and to have a pause and to have this kind of conversation. It's great. I love it.
Fantastic. I love it, Ben. Thank you very much. Where can people find you if they need to?
Totally. Check me out at honeybadger.io. If you go to the About Us page, if you want to see me on Blue Sky or LinkedIn or wherever, you can see my links there. And you know, if you haven't tried us, definitely give us a shot. And if you want to drop us a line and make some suggestions or have some questions, feel free. We're always happy to. We love our customers and love our potential customers and any friends too. I mean, we love them all.
Otherwise, I'm sure you'll pop up at the next conference.
You'll see me around. I'll be at be at some more this year. So do poke me if you see me.
Great. Awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate you talking to me today.